With the way everything has been going in the economy, it's really sad that living paycheck to paycheck is starting to become the new norm. And obviously living paycheck to paycheck has been the norm for a lot of people for a long time, but the amount of people that it's becoming the norm for is continuing to increase. And that's really the situation that should have most people concerned right now. Because check this out, guys. Middle income earners, 63% of middle income earners now are living paycheck to paycheck. 49% of high income earners are living paycheck to paycheck. And obviously, there's no real legitimate excuse if you're a high income earner of living paycheck to paycheck, other than the fact that you just have no clue how to manage your money. But it's just ridiculous that people have gotten so used to this debt cycle of just borrowing and buying and can't afford things, but let's just buy it anyhow, and let's just buy the house, let's buy the new car, let's buy everything and worry about the money later, that even people that make a lot of money are living paycheck to paycheck. That's insane. And in this recent survey from LendingTree, it was determined that the overall average is 65% of people right now are living paycheck to paycheck nationwide. And that's up from a year ago, 5%. It used to be 60%, now it's 65%. So the number just continues to go up. We got one for rent here. It looks like the owner of this house has been consistently playing games for many years. Since 2013, they've tried to rent it and sell it many times and never actually did any of it. They always just take it off the market after they don't get their price. And to make matters worse, personal savings rates are starting to drop as well. In fact, when you adjust for inflation, personal savings rates are down 88% from their pandemic peak in 2020. And they are 61% lower than they were pre-pandemic. So pre-pandemic, everything was mostly normal, guys. And the fact that people's savings rates are down 61% from those levels is a huge warning sign that inflation is really ramping up and really starting to show its ugly face right now. Because when people have 61% less savings than they did before everything got out of whack, that just goes to show you how much extra money people are using right now just to stay afloat and just to, stay living. I've shared with you guys a few times already my personal living situation. Next year, I'm expecting my household expenses to go up about $1,000 a month, guys. That's crazy. People complain about $100, $200 a month rent increases. That's nothing compared to $1,000 a month. So, and I'm not alone. This is just one anecdotal situation, but it's happening to people all over the place. And this is the proof right here, essentially. In the second quarter of 2022, the personal savings rate hit $629 billion. In 2019, the number was 1.4 trillion, guys. So that is a gigantic decrease. Although I would say the one piece of good news from all of this is that in this survey, it was determined that 68% of people right now actually have $400 for an emergency. So if someone needed to, fix their car, or there was an unexpected doctor bill or whatever, $400, they have it. So that's almost 70%. That's pretty good. But the remaining 30% don't have it. And let's face it, guys, with how expensive everything is getting, $400 today is not what it used to be. I mean, $400 probably won't even fix your car anymore, depending on what's wrong with it. When you factor in labor, parts, and especially if you own a house, the type of repairs that come up for houses, a roof repair, AC repair, furnace repair, now that we're going into wintertime, a new stove, refrigerator, whatever, all that stuff costs far beyond $400. So realistically, in my book, $400 is not actually even enough to cover a so-called emergency. Look at that thing. Apocalypse 6x6. This thing's got 6 tires. That's interesting. Never seen one of those before. Now, anyone who lives in the southern part of the United States, like I do, is probably familiar with the grocery store chain Publix. And I was there yesterday to do our monthly grocery shopping ever since the pandemic, and I shared this before too. what we do now is we just go hit all the grocery stores in one day and do all of our grocery shopping for the entire month. So we don't have to be out every week buying stuff, and it helps us save some extra money too. So real quick, guys, there's one for sale here. You're starting to see more and more for sale signs pop up because a lot of sellers know this is the last train out of town, guys. You can still sell for a decent profit before the listings go berserk. When I was at Publix for the first time ever, I saw that they turned off basically half the lights in the grocery store. And I'll put up some clips for you guys here, but all of the lights on the ceiling, about half of them were turned off. And even in the sections where they have all the groceries, like the freezer sections and the refrigerated sections where you need to keep stuff cold, they're turning off half of those lights. And you can see the difference, you know, from the ones that are turned off compared to the ones that aren't. And I've been going to this Publix for years and I've never seen anything like this, guys. And the lights were working, but they just turned them off. And the thing that worries me is, like, if a big multi-million-dollar corporation like Publix is in financial trouble and they need to be doing things like turning off extra lights in the store to save a few extra bucks, you know, where does that leave regular people that don't have multi-millions of dollars? That's what I'd be worried about right now. And since I've never seen anything like this happen until yesterday, it's a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call of where things stand right now when it comes to energy prices and the cost of living. This is why I've been saying in all my videos to make sure you don't have debt, to make sure you have some money saved, and to make sure that your credit score stays good throughout all of this, so that way when it's time to get a loan for something, you're going to be able to qualify for the best possible rates and loans that are available. Now that we're seeing big corporations, you know, cut corners like this in the form of layoffs or just turning off the lights, maybe giving employees less hours, you know, it's all basically a sign of the times is what I'm thinking. And another thing I've told you guys in the past is you have to be careful when things start getting bad like this. The amount of scams start ramping up. And one of the latest ones that I just read about today is coming out of California. There is this fraudulent mortgage relief company that is operating under about 10 different names right now. And what they're doing is they're basically sending people letters in the mail saying, hey, we can lower your interest rate dramatically on your loan. You just have to pay X amount of dollars and we'll lower your rate immediately. This guy that they interviewed for this article, he said that this company that's doing this is called Golden Home Services America, okay? And they agreed to give him an interest rate on his home for 1.8%. So that's already a huge red flag, guys. Even during the times when interest rates were at an all-time low, during this housing boom, no one was getting a 1.8% interest rate on their home. I've never heard of anyone getting that low. I think the lowest I've ever heard anyone getting was around 2.5%. So that's still considerably higher than 1.8. What do people need to do? They need to use their instincts, guys. You need to realize when a deal sounds too good to be true, then it probably is. And this is the perfect example of that right now. When someone's promising you a 1.8% interest rate, you need to run. And what happened to these poor people is they thought they were going to be saving $1,800 a month on their mortgage payment because that's what was promised. They've been paying this company every single month. They send them a bill in the mail to save them this money, right? And they've paid them about $20,000 to date for the last 14 months, and still nothing has happened with their mortgage when it comes to lowering their interest rate or anything like that. So it's been a complete scam. These people have a lawyer now and they're suing, which they should be. And I'm sure this has probably happened to many other folks as well. So there's probably going to be some sort of a class action lawsuit. And why do I bring this up? I bring this up because it's just another thing that people need to be aware of. It's always the same thing, guys. When the economy gets bad, that's when the amount of scams really starts ramping up. There's always scams all the time, but the amount of them just starts compounding. You know, we're getting hit from every angle on your Facebook page, on your text message, you know, spam phone calls. Any way possible, scammers are going to find a way to try and dig into your wallet right now. Even me, what happened to me recently, I sell things on eBay sometimes just for fun. It's just a little hobby. And I sold an expensive item recently. And what happened was, first of all, I've had experiences like this in the past where what they'll try to do is a buyer that has no feedback on eBay, which is basically a brand new account, will buy something from you, and what they'll do is they'll make the purchase but they won't pay, and then they'll start messaging you and bombarding you saying, hey, you know, when are you going to send the stuff out? As soon as you send it, I'll pay, or blah 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 blah. But obviously that's a big red flag, and as the seller you should never send out your item to anyone until the item has been marked paid. Now they're starting to take this scam a step further, because I recently had a situation similar to that, but what happened was I got a message from somebody else who looked like it was the same seller, similar username, but no feedback, whatever, and they said, oh, I recently just moved, or I'm out of town, can you please send the item to this address instead? And I called eBay to make sure that this was legit, which I already had a feeling that it wasn't, but I just wanted to make sure, right? And of course they confirmed this is a new scam, that they are basically watching these listings, waiting for things to sell, and then they'll right away message a seller of an item, usually expensive items, and get them to try to divert it and send it to a different address. So don't fall for this stuff, guys. You have to be very diligent and aware right now of your surroundings and people trying to take advantage of you, because there are no shortage of scumbags and criminals and lowlifes looking to take advantage of you right now. And these are my personal stories of what just happened right now. And you definitely don't want to end up like this guy from California who's probably going to be out 20 grand until this lawsuit goes through, which, you know, lawsuits can take years. So even if he wins and he gets a nice big fat check at the end, it's still the headache of going through the lawsuit, the court dates, the emotional stress that's being caused by being ripped off like this, you know, all these things. So the easiest way to not go through this is to prevent it to begin with. And like I showed you guys in a video a couple days ago about how some sellers are just being too stubborn, and that's causing them not to be able to sell their homes by not budging on the price. Well, here's another story I want to share with you guys about what's happening with some home sellers. There was a story I just read about this guy in Miami who recently sold his house for about 1.4 million. And originally he was asking almost 1.9, guys. So that's like a $500,000 reduction in his asking price, essentially. But at the end of the day, he was still happy with the sale. Why? Because he bought the house back in 2017, so he's only owned the house for 5 years, and you know, he bought it for $900,000. So the guy still made a $500,000 profit in a span of 5 years. Of course, he's going to have taxes and any home repairs or improvements he did during the time, and just the cost to maintain the house. We all know that. But still, even if the guy ends up with only $400,000 after 5 years, that is a tremendous profit. And you still see home flippers that are making these type of gains, you know, in a matter of months, not even just years. And so the point I want to make from this is, just like we're seeing more of these for sale signs pop up on these walks, if you're a home seller right now, guys, there is a chance that it's not too late yet. But if you want to sell, you need to be willing to flex, you know? You need to be willing to sell for a fair price. You know, the days are over of multiple offers and over asking price bids and things like that. For most areas anyways. That's not really happening here in Miami. So if you are someone that bought several years ago and you want to sell now to capitalize on this gain while you still can, I don't think it's too late yet, but we're approaching a time when it could be too late as more institutional investors start to unload their properties, as more sellers start to realize that things are now headed on the downturn, and as you have more competition, it's just going to make it harder to get the price you want for your property. So try to sell for a fair price, and if you can still walk away with a decent profit, that's a win, guys. Don't be greedy. You know, that's kind of the lesson right now. Don't be greedy. Sell for a good price. The buyer will be happy, and you'll be happy that you walked away with a nice chunk of their money, sailing into the sunset, waiting for the downturn to fully come so you can cash in once again. Because even if you're a home seller that is going to be walking away with a decent profit, that's still a much better position to be in than if you're a home buyer in the UK right now. Listen to this, guys. For a first-time home buyer in the UK, the average deposit that someone would need to make right now to keep their mortgage payments affordable, so to speak, would be 106,000 British pounds. I don't know how much that is in dollars, but it's probably a little more than 106,000 US dollars. And that's a lot of money. Most people don't have this as a down payment. And what that is it's 43% of the average home price over there of about 247,000. And home buyers in England, if they were looking to buy this $247,000 house a couple years ago when interest rates were only 2%, their payment would be $941 a month. And so basically the math is here, if you want to keep that payment $941 a month, you now have to put down that $106,000 down payment. Whereas before, the down payment only would have been about $25,000. So that is huge, guys. You're talking 4 times the amount of the down payment someone would need to make right now just to keep payments the same. That's how much interest rates influence your house payment. And I'm telling you, this is what's going to keep prices going down. As long as we have these high interest rates, prices are going to keep going down basically everywhere, except for in areas where maybe you have a lot of affluent buyers or there's a lot of cash sales that aren't influenced by interest rates. And of course, it's not just interest rates that are crushing the economy and the housing market. The layoffs, guys, they just keep piling up. Open Door, just this week, they're laying off an extra 550 people. That's 18% of their workforce that they are laying off right now. And one of their bigwigs over there said that this is a necessary thing that they need to do in order to keep their company thriving in the future. But I don't know what they're talking about, because Open Door stock since the beginning of this year, guys, is down 89%. So that their company has lost nearly all of its value in the span of less than 1 year. So when you see these type of layoffs happening and more people starting to lose their job, whether expected or unexpected, it's just another sign that things are going to have to slow down in the economy, because no one's going to be able to afford to buy houses. They're just going to be worried about keeping up with the cost of living at this point. So as usual, just be ready for these type of things, especially financially. That's really the biggest takeaway I want everybody to have. And here we have 2 more houses for sale, guys. These houses weren't here last time we were in this area. So you can see more people are starting to try to take advantage of the last train out of town. That's what I think this is right here. All of a sudden you're seeing all these homes pop up because now people are getting the message. This is insane, guys, and the first time we've ever seen anything like this on these walks. These 2 houses right next to each other were purchased by the same owner right around the same time earlier this year for about $3.2 million each. And they're both flips, and they actually have them both for sale together. And if you buy them together, you can get them for $7.5 million. But if you want to buy them separately, they're $3.8 million a pop. Never buy stuff like this. Always check what people paid for it previously. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the bell notification down below. That way you get alerted by YouTube every time I put out a new video. And if you don't want to wait for that, check out my next one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.